Hello. My name is Annie and I am a wheelchair user. Some time ago, Buzzfeed uploaded a video called What's It Like to Be a Woman in a Wheelchair, where you get to hear one woman's perspective about life as a wheelchair user. So I'm here to offer you another. Have you ever used your wheelchair as a weapon? No. The truth of the matter is, being in a wheelchair oftentimes makes me feel incredibly vulnerable. I've had people force me away from my friends, in loud, crowded spaces, despite my protest. Violence is a concern. If I'm out by myself, especially if I'm dressed more feminine, I've experienced harassment and really aggressive behavior. I have a lot of anxiety and I'm actually on high alert, so I don't know. Is there a way to use your wheelchair as a weapon? I would like to know. Does it feel like people are going out of their way to be nice to you? Sometimes kindness is never a bad thing, but it does feel a little weird when random strangers pass by me and say things like bless you or I'll pray for you. What's another one? Or may God have mercy on you, just because they see me in a wheelchair. That's a little weird. Kind of like my whole existence is worth pitying. Ooh, or being infantilized and people talking to me in a weird baby voice. That's really weird too. Why would you do that? Does it bug you when people ask you if you need help with anything? No, not at all. I've only been using a wheelchair full time for a year, and I do need help with stuff sometimes. What I don't like is if I say I don't need help and somebody doesn't listen, or sometimes when people help me without asking me if I need help first, because I think what people need to understand is that, being a wheelchair user, I've had to adapt to do things a little differently than able-bodied people do. And sometimes when you interrupt the process, it can be disastrous. It can actually be more inconvenient. And people tend to respond kind of on the offense when I say that. Naturally, if it's a life or death situation, you don't have to ask. Just go for it if I'm about to die for some reason. It's just polite to ask me if I need help because I might have a handle on it already. Also, if I do trust you to push me on the wheelchair, please don't let go without telling me. I know that a wheelchair is kind of an extension of our body and it's hard to remember that we don't have feeling on the wheels or on the handles. But I don't know when your hands are on the handles and when they're not, and I could seriously hurt myself. I don't have a disability. Can I use the handicap stall? If every other stall is full, sure. But please consider this. There are typically a limited amount of stalls that I can fit into with my wheelchair. So if I have to use the restroom, my options are already limited. To then have a person hog it as their own personal office, makeup room, sex chamber, I don't know. But you could fit in any other room, and that's the one stall that I can fit into with my chair. So just be considerate of that. That's all. Would you rather people ignore the wheelchair? I'd rather not have people stare at my wheelchair. I'd rather have some eye contact. And to some extent, yes, conversationally, yes. I'd like it to be somewhat ignored in the social conversation when I first meet somebody, because it's kind of bothersome when it's the only thing someone can think to talk to me about. Though I do enjoy talking about disability activism, for sure. Just not about my personal health, because that can be a sensitive topic. Do you get upset when people ask how you got into the wheelchair? Yes, when it's the first question, Not necessarily when we know each other and you're more delicate with the way you ask the question. Asking somebody why they are physically disabled or about their chronic illness, generally you're not gonna get a jolly response. Generally it'll be a downer, a buzzkill, whether it's illness or physical trauma. It's not typically something people want to talk about, and often at that. Does it bother you when people call you inspiring? If it's just because I'm in a wheelchair, then yeah. A little bit. It's not offensive to me, just kind of annoying. Wheelchairs are actually privileges. They can be very expensive and they're not accessible to everyone who needs them. I also don't like this idea that if I'm not happy or positive, then I'm not valuable as a disabled person. I battled depression long before I became a wheelchair user. I'm generally a positive person, but I can have a lot of bad days. And people have this idea that if you're sad or angry and disabled, that your attitude needs to change. But I have a right to be sad and angry just as much as anybody else does. Especially with mental illness, I have very little control of that and am still deserving of basic human respect and still deserve to be loved. What can we do as a society to better provide for those in wheelchairs? There are two things that are very important to me that I find very important when it comes to my disability advocacy, and that is media representation and accessibility. Having access to the same spaces that able-bodied people have. Is it particularly offensive when people stare at you? I rarely notice it, really. And to be honest, in my experience, I've always had somewhat of a unique aesthetic, I think, from my ambiguous ethnicity to the kind of clothes that I wear. So being stared at is something that I don't find too uncommon, actually. Generally, it is impolite to stare, so I wouldn't recommend it, but I'm alright. What advice would you give to young women in wheelchairs? Don't let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do. Emphasis on both, on can and cannot. Only you can say what you can and cannot do. Only you know your limits. Only you know your body and what it can handle. If you can't do something, that's okay. If you know you are capable of accomplishing something, then go for it, if you want to. As disabled people, we learn to adapt to so many different things. And though it can be tough to believe in your capabilities and in your beauty, because we rarely get to see ourselves in the media, back to my previous point, because we rarely get to see people that look like us in the mainstream, but things are getting better. Something that helps me very much is having gratitude for the things that I do have, while advocating for a more just and equal society, and using the internet to express myself and increase visibility. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. And I'll see you guys eventually. Bye!